104.5, 100.3, 94.7. Let's go to the phone lines. We got Larry Holder of The Athletic, at Larry Holder on Twitter. Saints expert, NFL expert here in the program. Talk a little Super Bowl, talk Saints going forward, what did last night means for them. Larry, what's up, man? How you feeling this morning?
I'm good, T-Bob. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us last minute here, Larry. You came through for us. And now the question is, who's going to come through for the Saints? I don't like this setup. Let's say this. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win the Super Bowl last night, Larry. And now it is more clear than ever that for the first time in years, the New Orleans Saints are not the favorite to win the NFC South next season. And I guess my question is, in an offseason for the Saints that feels so impactful, right, where you could go a bunch of different directions, does Tampa's success apply any extra pressure to the Saints, or does it alleviate some? Does it make them go harder to maybe find the answer at quarterback, or do they take a step back, kind of wanting to wait out this Tom Brady era of the Bucs?
Well, I don't think they're going to want to wait out anything just because that's not the way that they operate. I mean, they're always we're going to go full speed ahead and try to win now. I mean, what's the point of even being in the NFL if you can't do that? That's kind of like Sean Payton's MO. And so when you look at it, I know Tom Brady will be around for at least one more year, but where did the Saints go? We're all going to be looking at where they go at quarterback because we're all anticipating Drew Brees retiring at some point in the next week or two or before free agency starts. But, it's depending on – you're not just looking at next year as far as, all right, is Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill or whoever going to be your one-year guy? I mean, you want to win next year, but you also want to be ready for the future when Tampa eventually does have a drop-off because Tom Brady is definitely not going to be there forever. I mean, we know that. So, but then you also got to look at other teams in the division. I mean, maybe they're going to try to catch you at some point. I mean, it's not like it's going to be the Saints or the Kings forever. And that's not the history of the division. I mean, usually it's one team, then the next, and the next, and so it's kind of so topsy-turvy. And so, look, the Saints are going to try to be a playoff team and see what happens next year. I don't think there's any doubt. I don't think they're going to just kind of wait this thing out and just kind of sputter along. That is not the way Sean Payton operates.
And so, okay, so with that in mind, and give the cap, everything else, it just seems to be constant conversations right now, but we haven't gotten to talk to about it, me and you. What do you think they do at quarterback? You always have such great insight into this franchise and kind of how they're evaluating guys. Do they feel as strongly about Winston as the lip service they are paying? Is it kind of a smokescreen? Obviously, Stafford's off the market now, but now there's Carson Wentz trade rumors. How do you think they're approaching this quarterback situation right now?
I don't think it's a smokescreen. And even Sean Payton, in some of his media tour during the Super Bowl, he says, look, there's no point in being coy about it. We want Jameis Winston back in free agency. And I think that, well, I could just tell you the sense that I got, and let's compare it to Matt Stafford. They felt and feel like Jameis Winston and Matt Stafford are the same quarterback right now. And yet Stafford has hit a peak and Winston has room to improve. And they really like his football IQ. They really like how he's in great shape. There's a lot that they like about Jameis Winston. And that's why they were not even in the conversation about Matt Stafford. I mean, it was fun to talk about, but they weren't in the conversation at all about Matt Stafford because they want Jameis Winston back, and they feel like that he's the guy as opposed to, say, Taysom Hill. But, as far as Jameis, he's still got to prove it. I understand their logic. I'm just saying.
Well, did you see any of that in practice, Larry? Because what I've heard is that during camp last year that it was actually pretty unimpressive on the whole.
But he was erratic. And I could just tell you, I didn't get to go to practice a ton in training camp. Yeah. I actually probably saw his best days while I was there. So my view of him was a little more skewed because we had to kind of hand around the credentials for COVID protocols. So, but still, I think they got to learn a lot more from say training camp than to where they are now. And you can like it or not, but it feels like that's the conviction that they have in the building. Unless something wild happens, I mean, we wouldn't have been talking about Tom Brady with the Saints a year ago, but that was almost reality if Drew Brees would have retired.
Talking to Larry Holder at Larry Holder, catch the Duncan Holder podcast as well. You can find all of Larry's work on The Athletic. The Athletic is awesome. Theathletic.com/hold that podcast. You want a sweet sign-up deal. Larry, at the end of that Saints-Bucks game, did Drew Brees tell Jameis Winston this is his team now?
Well, no one came out and said that, and no one said it afterwards and such, but it sure seemed to indicate that much. Like when you're reading lips, I mean, we're all trying to decipher from what his lip reading was when the cameras caught him. But, all of the talk from coaches and then people I've talked to behind the scenes that they feel like that this is going to be his team. And, let's kind of scale it back a little. If the Saints had more cap room and more draft capital, would that be the case? I don't know. But in their current situation, I think their best option in their eyes is Jameis Winston. And, I don't know if he's going to get a long-term contract this offseason. I doubt it. So I think it's still if Jameis Winston flops, we might be having the same conversation next offseason about who's going to be the quarterback and which direction they go. And look, I assume they're going to draft someone. I would think that they're going to be heavily invested in looking at these quarterbacks. And if they fall in love with someone, look, they traded from 27 to 14 to go get Marcus Davenport. You don't think they would trade from 28 to 10? Or if they could to go get a quarterback. So I think that's something that we're going to have to monitor there as well.
Yeah, if only they traded from 11 to 10 a few years ago. Could have had a pretty good one there. Last one on Winston, and then we'll move on here. What about? Oh, wait, real quick though. What quarterbacks do you think they're looking at in the draft? Because we had this conversation the other day, and I was shouted down both in this room and on the internet for suggesting some names.
I think they're looking at everybody. I mean, you can't not look at everybody when your Hall of Fame quarterback is about to retire. Okay.
Like Trask,
tell me the names.
Ellinger.
Well, I've been on the Trask train on Moscona's show for a while,
okay.
and he's of course lost his mind and thought I was a moron.
Of course,
yeah, exactly. So I look at those guys. Look, I like their intangibles. Like I think Trask can be. I really think Trask can actually be a pretty good NFL quarterback. Problem is he's not mobile. Like that's apparent. Now, how the way the NFL is right now. How do you gauge that? I'll look at someone like Trey Lance. Like I think he's he's unknown.
Hell yeah.
What if he slips or somehow, and then yet the Saints fall in love with him? And because remember, I mean, you alluded to it just a second ago. What if Patrick? They love Patrick Mahomes, and he wasn't first, second, or first quarterback taken or second quarterback taken. So, what if they fall in love with Trey Lance? And do they go get aggressive to go move up and get him? So I think, what if they love Mac Jones? I know people in Baton Rouge probably don't have the greatest opinion of Mac Jones. I don't think he's ever been tested, but what if he actually is good? So, maybe the Saints like him and they trade up to like 15 or something. But yeah, I think they've got to have their eyes open, not just first round guys, but even guys like you just mentioned, someone like a Trask or like a Sam Ellinger.
Larry, on one more quick one on Winston here. Do you have any insight into maybe what the market market's going to be for him? Like, is there a world in which his price gets driven up too high for what the Saints are willing to commit?
I doubt it. Let's just reverse back to Teddy Bridgewater. His market, he could have got $10 million from Miami, and he never started a game with the Saints at that point. But he came back for $7.5 million with the Saints. I'm going to guess that is what the market's going to be for Jameis.
Okay.
And yet, what if somebody like Chicago goes bonkers, this, that, and the other? I don't know. I'm wondering what's plan B if Jameis decides to leave, but I think Jameis is probably going to see fit that he's got a really good chance with good offensive pieces, a very good offensive line. You know, I think he sees what's there with New Orleans, and you know, I'd be surprised if he went somewhere else.
Larry Holder, Larry, what did you think about the Super Bowl last night, man? What stood out to you above anything else?
I was just surprised. It's funny. Everyone talks about Jameis Winston and how could Jameis not do this with that team, but Tom Brady did. What stood out to me is that every player that was involved in a touchdown was not on the team last year.
Yeah.
And how wacky and wild is that? And also, if you're the Chiefs and you don't have either your starting tackles against a pretty good front, you're in trouble. And we saw Patrick Mahomes running for his life. So I think that was those are my two biggest takeaways. And the glut of penalties, I think was a little over the top, especially in the first half.
It's not even like it was egregious. The refs just felt too involved. How about favorite commercial? Then we'll let you go.
I would say the Bud Light one. I think I like how they incorporated everything. So I'll go Bud Light. I like some of the Rocket Mortgage stuff too. Even though one of them was like Joey Bosa randomly just showed up. I'm like, what are you doing there?
Larry Holder at Larry Holder on Twitter. Duncan Holder podcast. Catch all of his work in The Athletic. It really is some of the absolute best. Go to theathletic.com today. Larry, thanks so much, man.
Yeah, you got a quick plug. I got a column that came out this morning about Drew Brees and having won Super Bowl, only won one Super Bowl. And guess what, folks? It's okay because there's a lot of people who've only won one. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, right? Third MVP. He had multiple chances to take the lead from Brady, and he couldn't do it. So,
right.
Yeah, well said, Larry. Check out that article today. I'm excited to read it after the show. You have a great day, Larry. Thanks, man.
All right, see you, T-Bob.
All right, coming up next, close out hour number 2 here on Off the Bench.